Hello. In this video, we will be looking at how to do sample escalation in Clarity LIMS. First, we will look at how a lab scientist can escalate samples for review when they have doubt about the sample status. And then we will look at how a lab manager can review those samples that have been escalated and assign the samples to their next steps. We will use a bioanalyzer QC step as an example here. As you can see on my screen, currently, as a lab scientist whose name is Joe, I have finished the bioanalyzer QC file uploading and QC assignment. I noticed that some of these samples got a QC pass, some of them got a fail. What I would do on my screen is click Assign Next Steps. I would then realize that my samples now have been grouped into two categories, those that have failed and require review, and those that have passed. For the ones that require review, I can now select escalating them from this drop-down list. If I highlight Request Manager Review and click Apply, that will apply to all of the samples in the Require Review group. Now I have this option to select the manager I want to escalate this to, and also enter a comment. After selecting the reviewing manager and entering a comment about those samples, I can now click Finish Step, and what will happen to these samples is they will be suspended from further processing and will show up as being currently reviewed by the manager that I have selected. I will click Finish Step, and on my screen I will see under Recent Lab Activity that Joe, myself, has requested review on the bioanalyzer QC step. I will also see these samples showing up as in progress with an exclamation mark right next to them, suggesting that these samples are going through a reviewing process. Let's look at now how, as a manager, I can review those samples that have been escalated and assign them. Now, signing in as the lab manager, I see immediately on my screen there is a review requested on the top right corner. If I need to go into this list of samples, I can just simply click here, and the system will take me to the exact page where the lab scientist Joe Random has recorded the samples and escalated them. As you can see, when the screen refreshes, I see the person who has escalated the samples as well as their comment. I can look at these samples as well as their bioanalyzer QC results and determine as a manager what I want to do with these samples. In the Common drop-down option, I can either leave them in the QC protocol or remove them from workflow, preventing these samples from being grabbed and used again. However, if I want to have some of these samples re-queued for an earlier step to have the library prepped again, I can use the individual option and select rework from the earlier step, at which point the system will load the individual previous history for individual samples and let me choose the particular step I want to re-queue it up to. After that, I can simply enter a review comment for the lab scientist Joe Random to see that the samples have been reviewed and assigned, and simply click Finish Review to complete the review process. If I am removing samples from the workflow, I will also see this confirmation message. After that, I will see the recent lab activity updates with a completed review status for those samples. And now, if I sign in as the lab scientist Joe Random, I would notice that those samples shown up as in progress have disappeared, and instead I also see the complete review status for those samples. This is how, as a lab scientist, you can escalate samples for review when you have concerns or doubts about them, and how, as a lab manager, they can follow the review request and assign samples, remove them, or have them requeued to an earlier step.